Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Unrealized Purpose podcast. My name is Isaac Wooden, here with Dalton Howell and Prajesh from Phambili Coaching. He's been on our show, I think this is the fourth episode.
Yeah, this is the fourth episode. That's correct.
Yeah, it's awesome to have him on. Layers and layers of knowledge in this guy over here.
Well, I think the three of us come together. And as we come together, we all bring our different viewpoints to the same thing. So it's awesome. Thank you for having me again, Isaac and Dalton.
So today we want to discuss positivity, growth mindset, and mindfulness in today's world, which kind of leads right into my first question and kind of where I wanted to discuss a little bit. But how do you maintain mental clarity in a world that is living at light speed with technology and now AI being so just powerful and advertisers all over the place? Do you have a process for shutting out the noise so you can focus on what's important?
Yeah, what a great question, Isaac, and what a great way to start the whole conversation. The world today is crazy. What we did yesterday has changed dramatically, So like you see for AI, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, there's a new AI tool, and there's a new way of doing something, there's a new way of doing things. And the problem that I see, not the problem, I think what's happening in the world is we just chase all the shiny things. The next day you wake up and, oh, this is pretty cool, that's pretty cool. And what happens is because we keep chasing all the shiny things, we actually forget about our purpose of why we're doing whatever we're doing. So if you think about the way the world's going at the moment, if we try and do everything, we end up doing nothing. So what's happening is I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he said to me he doesn't use it in social media at the moment, and I asked him why, and he said because what's happened is he's found that the brain is amazing, right? So with the brain, with every time you go into any social media, reels or TikToks or whatever, you get a dopamine hit all the time. So your brain is just being activated to get the dopamine all the time instead of the delayed gratification. So what we're doing now is because we become so used to the instant dopamine hits, we're training our brain not to even think about the delayed gratification. So an example for Isaac, you're a clear example of this here, the delayed gratification of you working out. You could just wake up in the morning and go, cool, I'm going to get dopamine by doing, I don't know, 2 press-ups or whatever, and not worry about going to the gym. Driving to the gym all the way there, sort of drama, got to get out there. The gratification after your hard workout is much better. So there's your clarity around that. Your purpose is I want this here. So in today's world, what is happening is too many shiny things all over the place, and we forget about our why. And the other thing is we also try and find shortcuts to everything. So, getting back to delayed gratification. So, if you jump online and see, earn 10K in 3 months and, become a millionaire in 3 weeks' time. And we all know that doesn't happen, but we're trying to find ways to do that there. And if you ask someone who's done that and has done the hard graft, no one's going to say I earned $1 million in 2 months, because they go, actually, I've got to do the work. But we keep chasing, So that's my thoughts on where we're going to start this conversation, I think. And I'd love your thoughts on that there.
Yeah, I love where you took that, where you said we're always chasing the shiny thing, and social media is such a good example of that, because generally I use social media to do content research, see what's working, and then sometimes to just be entertained. The interesting thing is there'll be some really, really good ideas in a reel. I heard this quote by Nietzsche, however you say his name, and I just sat there and listened to it over and over again. This just one reel. But what I've caught myself doing before is I'll find something that's just, I need to have just sat with that idea and pondered it. But since it's the format of swiping and swiping and swiping, I'll catch myself just swiping on by it and then forgetting completely about that thought and that idea. I think the issue was I just wasn't being intentional with that. With social media, there's so many shiny things, so many shiny ideas and new ways of looking at things that we forget that the old way of doing things still works. Like you said, earn 10K in a month. That shiny object syndrome that we love to chase.
Yeah. And again, and I love the word that you said there. I spoke about your why, but it's also your why is basically your intention. Why are you doing whatever you're doing, and what is the purpose? So yeah, we all jump online, we'll do a bit of scrolling, but then if you go in with an intention, I'm jumping online because I'm jumping on for 10 minutes for entertainment. Cool, done. I know I'm here for 10 minutes. This is it. I'm jumping online with an intention to find stuff, and if you have an intention, that's going to help with your clarity. But again, it's going to come back to discipline. Right? If you don't have the discipline, that goes out the window straight away. It's easy to say things, it's hard to do things.
Right. Yeah. I guess that goes back to your why and why you're on it.
Yeah.
Uh, y- yeah, man, I guess if I didn't have any real reason to be on social media, I'd probably delete the app because it's such a distraction. Sarah, cut you off. Don't know what you're saying.
Oh, no, you're all good. No, I was just thinking that same thing. It can definitely be a distraction and sidetrack you and stop you from doing things that you actually need to be doing. Me personally, I think we've all done it, but I started noticing how much time I spent on it. And so what I did to kind of reduce my limit, because the majority of what I did before it was just for entertainment. And so, which there's nothing wrong with that, but too much entertainment can be overload. And so what I would do is I would limit my time on it. And you can actually, on your phone, you can actually set up and let it send you a message at the end of the month or at the end of the week, and it'll tell you how much time you've spent on your social media apps. And so that's also a great tool to use if you're struggling with that, to be able to limit what your intake is.
That's so true. That's so true. I like this analogy with back to clarity. And the analogy I'm going to use is at the moment in New Zealand it's snowing and it's miserable, and recently we've had lots of fog. So if you think about clarity, it's trying to navigate through a dense fog and you have no idea what your surroundings are. And as you keep going through, you're stumbling, you hesitation, you're not sure which direction to go. You're just walking one direction or another direction. But this lack of clarity, what does it do to you is you feel disorientated, you start feeling anxious, and then you're making decisions that are just based on on a perception as opposed to reality. And if you think about that in the modern world, what is happening with us is whether it's social media, whether it's the internet, whether it's news, whether it's people, you're just getting bombarded with so much information and lots of opinions. And opinions these days seem to be facts versus opinions, lots of distractions. What that happens is because we have all the stuff happening to us, we forget about clarity. And what does clarity mean in the sense here? It means it's basically we have to try and cut through all the noise and the confusion, which basically allows us to make sense of what's happening around us so we can make informed choices. And at the moment, we don't have that because we just, like we said before, we're just chasing. So we're in this cloud here of all this stuff here, and we just chase you without stopping to go, wait a minute, let's set some objectives, let's set some steps, let's set some ideas of what we want to do, and then try and stay focused in amongst all this here. That's just the thought that I had.
The clarity thing for me is so powerful because like a couple of weeks ago, I was just like really struggling with what direction I wanted to take things, and just sitting down, writing out and just listening to myself and writing out a plan and, getting in touch with where I want to be at was so helpful, because then after I got that clarity, I then got the motivation, and then, 5 a.m.s were not a problem. Going to the gym for an hour was not a problem because I had that clarity. I'm curious, what are your guys' process for finding that mental clarity to, for your goals or for just whatever?
Dalton, you go ahead first and I'll follow.
Putting it in words is hard for me. But I kind of just decide, okay, this is what I want. So here's some things that I have to do. One of the things that we talked about a while back was investing. I kept asking myself, why am I not investing? And so one, it was fear that was stopping me, but my goal is I want to be able to, hop on my phone, invest, and be able to make money off the stock market. And so, there's a few things that you have to do. There's a lot of things that you have to do. One is you got to know something about the companies that you're, going into. But before I even had to get to that, I had to acknowledge, okay, why am I getting started? And I think one of the big things was just fear of losing and uncertain, because you're not good at it, and so that's kind of number one for me, was just getting over that fear was the first step for me to start being able to lay out, how much money am I going to put towards this? And then kind of setting out aside what energy I'm going to put into it, I guess.
I love that, because both of you mentioned something that is pretty important before we do anything with clarity, is self-awareness. I think we forget about the self-awareness piece, where we go, actually, let me stop for a second and actually take self-awareness, and to admit that, hey, I am scared. To admit that, hey, I don't know what I want to do. Just to stop and go, as opposed to always going, oh, I should be doing this here, I should be doing this here. I'm not doing it yet, I'm just going to procrastinate. And the self-awareness piece comes before the clarity. Once you become self-aware of why you're not doing it, then it's going to help with the clarity. I think what happens a lot of times is we create this clarity here, but we don't actually address the fact as to why we're not doing it. And this is a key thing, that this is why coaches are important, whichever space you're working in. Because any one of us in our lives can invest, can lose weight, can do any of the things here. We can do all that kind of stuff there, but why? Can eat healthy, but why don't we do it? We don't do it because we're not self-aware. We're not self-aware of why we're not doing it. So back to your question, sorry, I just went off a detour there. Back to your question, and my example was, I was like, when we first started having a chat, it's about, my coaching niche. And it took me a long time to come to the coaching niche. When we first started 2 years ago, when we first connected, to get that coaching niche took a long time, because I was trying to think about, chasing big stuff, until I stopped to go, actually, what actually do I want to do? What is my strengths before I can serve others? So to do that, I had to go through a process of writing things out, like you both said, writing things out, talking to people, but also talking to others to get their input and go, hey, what do you think I'm good at, what I'm bad at? Because sometimes we get so caught in our own mind that we forget to ask people that are around us, close to us, what our strengths and weaknesses are. And then once I did that, then I was able to just find, okay, this is the area that I like to go down and focus on that way there. And we're all human. We get distracted. We find shiny things. We go, oh, cool, I'm seeing this is working. But, you just got to stop and go, right, cool, these are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. Acknowledge the weaknesses and go, right, cool. Am I going to do anything about my weakness? Or am I going to go, cool, this is never going to work for me. So I'm just going to put that aside and just focus on my strengths. Why I say that too is because, we've been conditioned to believe that, you need to focus on your weaknesses and make them strong. But sometimes I argue with it, go, actually, wait a minute. Sometimes our weaknesses, they're weak for a reason. So we go, right, cool, let me think about the reason. And am I spending all this energy trying to strengthen this here, and I'm taking time with my strength? So do we go, right, cool, my weakness is actually a reason for it being weak. It's not helping me get to my further goal. Step aside, help someone who knows your strengths. So for example, if I go, hey, my content managing stuff, that's not my jam, I'm going to find someone who knows that jam there, who knows how to do it, as opposed to wasting my time. I could spend time doing it there, but am I taking time away from this here? So, it's just about becoming aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are and really want to spend your energy on. And that brings clarity as well.
Yeah, is that self-awareness is so big, yeah. And like your example with the coaching is because we hire coaches to help us with finding and probing into those like areas that we are not aware that we're lacking in. Like for me, it was I didn't have the accountability to tell me to get to the gym for the first little bit, so I hired a coach, and he texts me frequently. Did you go to the gym today? And if I didn't, I was gonna get that text back that was like, where you at? And that really helped me build that habit. So yeah, finding that self-awareness and then being like, yeah, I'm lacking the accountability, I need to hire a coach to keep me accountable, was huge for me. So
I think for some people like that, like coaching can come a little bit later. Definitely, it's definitely important. And if you start that way, I think you'll actually make better progress. But for some people, it's like, well, do I have the money, or do I have, the friends or the people around me that I can rely on to help me? It's like, maybe you might not have that. And so Jordan Peterson, he put it this way of starting something new, is like, you're scared and you're afraid, and you should be, but you should be more afraid of not starting at all, because then you're for certain that you'll fail, that you won't make any progress at all. And so I think just starting and going after it and just trying different ways to start until you can be able to, get a coach or you find someone that knows about it. I'm kind of thinking of that. I don't know if you've ever watched that movie. It's got Will Smith in it. It's called The Pursuit of Happiness. He doesn't really know exactly what he's doing. He's just kind of going through life. He bought all this equipment and he's having a tough time selling it. He thought he was going to sell them all. He eventually does, but like at the end of the movie, he becomes a stockbroker. And it's like, whoa. It's like you went from selling medical equipment to becoming a broker. And he kind of just decided, and I mean, he lived a pretty rough life, it looked like, or at least in the movie he does. But I think just starting and, pushing to your max and being willing to sacrifice. But anyways, kind of thought there.
One of my favorite sayings is done is better than perfect. And so, like you said, Dalton, if you just live in your head, you're never going to know what's going to happen, right? You can hypothesize, and, if you use the Pursuit of Happiness story, he just did it. He just went and did it. It wasn't the right way of doing it, but as he went on doing things, he learned about different ways of doing it. And, I think that's from failure. We all know this, from failure we learn. But the problem, I think, this goes back to our initial conversation, and our initial question is, when we look at the world, we don't see we are projected all these things that don't show failure. They just show perfection the whole time. So our brains are going, all right, cool, hey, everything is perfect the whole time. There's no one's failing. No one shows the failure that, oh, actually I lost $10,000. I didn't make $10,000, and then it took me a long time to get that. Or, hey, I struggled to go to the gym. It took me hours and hours. Those stories are not out there because those stories don't sell. No, they don't sell. They're not. So you go, right, cool. I just see perfection the whole time. But if you see the progress along the way, the amount of failure along the way, and then sometimes, the way the failure has been portrayed in social media is that the failure is done in such a way that it's got to be super, super failure. It can't just be like, oh, I didn't get up in the morning. I didn't get up this morning. That's a fail for you in your life. But it has to be something really drastic. Oh, somebody passed away, you got diagnosed. So you go, okay, oh, I didn't get it. That's not really a fail, but it is a fail into your progress. So, again, it goes back to awareness of what for you is failure. For you is different to what failure is for me. But again, back to what Dalton said, is if you don't start, you don't fail. If you don't fail, you don't learn.
Yeah, and then I think that's a good way to pivot into my next discussion here. Is I know we probably have talked about this in past episodes, but consistency is a pretty big thing for me, and people keep telling me, like, dude, you're so consistent. Like, okay, I wasn't okay, but I'm just curious, well, how do you guys build these new habits? How do you guys build that momentum?
One thing.
You can go ahead first.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about it. One thing for me, when you say, how do you build that consistency? A lot for me is kind of defined. It kind of goes deep for me, is for what's your character, Dalton? Is your character that you can't show up on time? Is your character that you can't be relied on? Is your character that you can't have any responsibilities? And so in my mind, it's like, how do you build consistency? In my head, it's like, well, I think it's just kind of a decision that you have to make. Well, if you really want it and you want to do it, you're going to do it. And so if you're not staying consistent with it, I think I would start questioning, is this something I really want to do? Because for me, just the three things in my life that are super consistent, that I'm very consistent with, and I'm working on a fourth one right now. But one is all the functions that I do at my church. It's like all of the slides that I create, all the versus the time and the process it takes to put everything together. And I didn't know how to do any of that just a year and a half ago, but I wanted to do it. And the reason I wanted to do it is because I wanted to take something off of somebody else's plate to see our church grow. And for our church to grow, people were being overworked and I wasn't doing enough, and I knew that I could do more. And my original goal was, hey, I want to get to this church and I want to make it grow. And so that was one way of being able to take a burden off of somebody else. And so it kind of shows that, hey, I'm in this for the long run. I want this to work and move. And I think that's one key thing, is you really have to want it. The other one is, your job, which, your job is kind of essential to everything else you do. You've got to be consistent with it. If you're not consistent with it, you're not going to make an income for you to do everything that you want to do. So there's definitely one thing in our life that we have to be consistent with. And I think most people actually don't like their jobs, which is kind of funny. So it's like other things that you're not consistent with that you don't like. It's like, well, it's good for you. Maybe that's just it. Maybe you don't like it. Do it anyway. That's kind of something nobody really likes. I should say pain, working out, going to the gym is painful. You're weakening yourself to make yourself stronger. You're using your muscles and you're wearing yourself out. So, nothing's easy. Consistency isn't easy. It's going to take time. And I think it's just you fail, you get back up and you keep trying and trying over and over again. And then maybe there should be a time you come and realize, hey, maybe this isn't what I want to do. And so you take a few steps back. But I'm talking a lot. I'll let one of you guys kind of hop on at that. Prajesh, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it all comes down to what we said at the start is your why, your intention, why you do whatever you want to do. Like you said, Dalton, is, for you at the church, your why was, hey, I wanted to do a lot more. I want my church to grow. If you don't have that, you wouldn't do that. Then you wouldn't, whatever, who cares? Someone else can do it. Someone else can do that. I'm not going to worry about the slides here. It's not my jam. My jam is doing other things here. But your why is what gets you to become consistent. When we go to work, you go to work depending on what your job is, right? So if you love your job, you go to work because I love my job, not my job. Or you might go, actually, I don't like my job, but I'm doing this because I need to be able to pay the mortgage, or you be able to provide for X, Y, Z. And I think if you have your why really strong, then you start becoming consistent. Conversely, also, you've got to think about consistency not always being good. Sometimes consistency is bad. So, for example, an example could be smoking. I need to smoke every time at morning tea, right? And some people do that there. That's a consistent behavior. But then why are you doing that? And you stop and you go, why am I doing this here? Oh, because I really enjoy it. And what are the outcomes? Are they positive or negative? Oh, I'm going to get sick. Okay, cool. So it comes down to intention, awareness, and also why you want to do it. But why is consistency important? Whether it's positive or negative, why is it important? And I think it's important, as we speak about this many, many times, because if you're consistent, you're going to start seeing progress and results. So what does that mean? That means if you just go to the gym, or if you go to the gym once a week, or you invest maybe once every 6 months, or if you do things that are not very consistent, you're going to see no results. And when you see no results, you are not going to, you're going to go, oh, this is not working here. But if you, like us, if you wake up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, you won't see a result straight away, but in 6 months' time, you'll see a result. A bit like when we jumped into the podcast before we started recording, I said to Isaac, hey, Isaac, I'm noticing a physical change in you. And that doesn't come from an overnight going to the gym once every 6 weeks. It's from the consistency, right? The other thing about consistency for those of you listening out there is when you're consistent, you're going to start developing a skill. So like we said just before, is when you start, you might not know anything. And Dalton, you said when you started, you had no idea. You just started creating stuff. Each week, as you did it, you started developing a skill, which is going to get you better. But if you're not consistent, if you do it once and you do it 6 months later, you're still going to be in the same spot. Number 3, I think the importance of consistency is it's going to help you start building the habits. Waking up in the morning at 5 o'clock, Isaac, I'm pretty sure it's really hard to do it, but as you start to every single day, you start forming a habit because of your why. Another reason for consistency is because, again, what you said, Isaac, is you said about accountability. When you start being consistent, at the start, your accountability comes from a coach or for a trainer. But as you start becoming consistent, the accountability comes from yourself, because you start letting yourself down and go, actually, I'm not investing. I'm not going to the church. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not eating healthy. It's for you as opposed to someone telling you. But at the start, we will need a coach to get you into that framework. And as you said, Isaac, your first question was consistency leads to momentum and motivation. So if you're consistent, you're going to have this momentum, which is going to help you. We use the word motivation, but I think motivation is fickle, but momentum is probably more important than motivation. So yeah, and I think the last reason why I think consistency is important is when you're consistent is it's a long-term thing. So if you're consistent for 6 months in a year, and you get sick or you get injured and something happens to you, or you go on a holiday, when you restart again, you know where you're starting from. You've got a point. But if you go to the gym once a month, if you invest once every 6 weeks, if you eat healthy once a week, when you go off the bandwagon, there's nothing for your body to come back to. And we all know the power of muscle memory. So if we're consistent in whatever we do, whether it's muscle memory or feeling of gratification, consistency is going to lead to that there. So I'm just been hopping on about that. But this is why I think consistency is very important. But it all becomes important about your intention, why you're doing whatever you want to do. And that's my 2 cents on consistency.
I wanted to ask you a question real quick while we're on that. I think you said it before. How long does it take to create a habit?
That's such a great question. And I think there's so much, there's tons of so many different numbers, right? There's 21 days, there's 61 days, there's 90 days. I just got my thing is don't worry about those things. It's when you start doing those things there, and then the day you don't do that, you feel pretty terrible. That's when you started creating a habit. So if you do it for 5 days and day 6 you go, I actually feel terrible, because I think what happens is if we go, we've got to reach to day 21, and once day 22 comes, you think, it's going to work, but it might not work for you. We think it's 61 days and you go, it doesn't work. And we just try to, again, we are aiming for a goal, but not enjoying the journey along the way. But this is my personal opinion. And I think that the day that you go, I actually feel terrible because I missed what I'm doing yesterday, that's when you realize, actually, I've started forming a habit.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I think I've heard the number 70 days is what it takes to create a habit. But yeah, what you just said, that makes a whole lot more sense. That you go day by day, and it's that day that when you don't do it, you feel weird, or you feel like you left something out. That you've finally created a consistent steps to get you to your goal. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for that. That's awesome.
No worries. And I tell you why, because I've been in this space for a long time, and whoever you listen to is going to tell you different numbers. We've always been told 3 weeks. Then I went to another seminar and they were like 61 days. Then there were 70 days. Then it was 91 days. And you're like, they just put a number of the year, right? Nobody actually knows which day it is, right? So it's a bit like when someone says, we have 2 million thoughts a day. I was like, how do you know that? Like, how do we know that someone has 2 million thoughts a day? There's no way to measure that there. So, sometimes it all sounds pretty amazing, but you've got to step back and go, logically, wait a minute. I have no idea how many thoughts Isaac is having right now. He could just be sitting there with 0 thoughts in his mind. Okay, but you have no idea, right? So so it's just something of, as you keep going and you're reading about stuff, you go, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense logically when there's so many different things.
Yeah, and I like that too, because even when you go to get rid of bad habits, you could probably say the same thing. Because now that I'm thinking about it, like I stopped drinking Coca-Cola because I was addicted to Coca-Cola. I was addicted to soda pop. And I was like, I literally Googled that question, was like, how long does it take to get unaddicted to something, or how long? And it was like, if you stop doing it for 2 months, you'll be great. And it was like, okay, awesome. So I took Google's word for it, and I hopped on, and I didn't drink it for like 2 months. And then like after it didn't drink it for like 2 months, it was like the next month I was like, oh, I'm good now. It's like I can, enjoy one here and there, but I won't, buy a 24 pack and down it in a day. But it was like, no, it was much more than just 2 months that I needed to stop drinking it, and then, get myself onto a, okay, enjoy a Coke like maybe once every, month or once every 2 weeks. And so, but yeah, I would you say it's the same for getting rid of a habit? It's kind of just like till you go to the point where you don't do it and then you feel better about it, maybe.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I think it's habits. I mean, bad habits, good habits.
Or bad
Habits that are not
consistencies.
conducive. Yeah, habits that are not conducive to your life. Those are interesting because some are deeply ingrained psychologically, and some are just on the top. And I've worked with some clients who require tons and tons. And I know one of the clients took them 2 months, 2 years to stop a habit, but the exact same habit by another client, they got rid of in 2 weeks. Same thing, but they've been in for a long time. And it all goes down to, again, back to that why. Why are you stopping, or why are you doing whatever you want to do? And when your why trumps everything else, and obviously you need tools and stuff like that, and you go through that there, it's going to change the way you look at that. Look at whatever you're trying to gain or you're trying to drop. And I'll give you an example, if you don't mind. I had a client of mine who ran every single day, ran 5Ks every single day, went for a 10K swim every weekend, and basically did everything correctly. So they wanted to lose weight, everything they wanted to do, but they lost zero. They were losing nothing. When they did all this stuff, and so we had to stop and think about the reason behind it, the reason behind why they wanted to do it. And as we got down to the reason why they wanted to do it, the reason they had was a very weak reason. It's I should be this. And when you think, well, I should be this, then that's not going to work, right? As we delve deeper into the reason, as we delve deeper for a reason for her to lose the weight, we came down to a health reason and a family reason. And I said, hey, basically came down to, I want to be healthy because I want to be able to run with my children in 5 years' time. When we got to that versus the I should be healthy because I need to look good or whatever, that person lost 10 kgs within the next 6 months because the whole changed. After doing years and years of just running every day, the why changed the whole story. And we just had that. That's basically, it was just, I just would text her, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why? That just changed the whole thing.
I love that. What is your why? Man, you could figure everything out just by asking why over and over again. Figure yourself out, figure the world's problems out. I think this was a pretty cool tweet by Zach Pogrub. He said, a bad obsession is an act of consumption. A good obsession is an act of creation. Find something that feels selfish but serves others, and the world is yours. And we're talking about consistency and finding your why. Your obsession, it could translate into that a little bit, where like I know you had mentioned like you guys were talking about consistency and if it was a bad thing. So that tweet just came to my mind real quick, and I had to mention it. And I guess you had mentioned it, Prajesh, where you're like, when you're consistent, you actually start to develop skills or a skill. Like with Dalton's case, where he wanted to help out, so he started to learn, and now a year and a half later, he's probably really good at slides at his church. Same with me. Like I wanted to work remote.
I'm just about to say.
Okay, another year and a half. We'll give you some more time. But I mean, like in my case, I've been on social media for, oh man, just 2, 3 years now, and like looking back at my old stuff and looking back at what I'm doing now, I've been very consistent at it, and I feel like the quality has just gone up because social media related to my why, because I wanted to be, have that independence, be able to have a side hustle. Anyway, that's just my thoughts about what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, no, totally. And really, if we take it away from social media and technology, if you're consistent, let's just say you say, I'm going to walk half an hour every day. That's all you're going to say. And when I talk about skill development, so the first few times you might just walk 2 kilometers. But as you keep walking half an hour every day, you're going to walk 2.5, then 3 in the same time, because you are developing your muscles, you're developing things. So it doesn't have to be something super crazy massive. It can just be something super small that you do every single day. And as you keep doing it, you get better and better and better. and you get more and more out of it, if that makes sense, or satisfaction or growth or whatever your outcome is. But if you keep doing it every day, but if you don't do it every day, you're never going to see that there. So circling back into your initial question we spoke about at the start was mindfulness, growth mindset, all those words we stuck to at the start. I think mindfulness is where it all comes back to, like we said, we spoke about the why, it's important, but until we give ourselves time to actually do that, it's not going to happen. So what actually is mindfulness? We hear that word being shot the whole time. This is my perception of what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is basically the practice of being fully present and being engaged in the present moment. But the important part about that there is when you're in that moment, you have no judgment and you have no attachment. So what does that mean? That means in that moment that you're just thinking about, you're focusing on your thoughts, what you're feeling, and basically what's going through your body. And at that point in time as well, it's thinking about the environment around you. The key thing is, like I said before, is not to think about judgment and attachment. So what that does for you is it allows you to think about your environment. So where you are, and you look at that environment very, very differently. So you become curious about the environment, you accept the environment it is. But at the start, we spoke about today's world. The problem with today's world is it's so fast-paced. There's so many distractions, so many shiny things all around the place there. So what happens then is it takes us away from the ability of being present in the moment, because you're like, oh, I need to look at this tweet, I need to look at this Instagram post, I need to think about what that person is saying, and you don't take time to think about that there. So I think that's a good, when we think about our why, we've got to think about being mindful as we do that practice of our why.
Yeah, for me, going through my day, definitely that's something I struggle with is swapping from one thing to the next. And my wife knows it too, because I'll come home and my head's still in work mode and I've got to swap over. And she makes it known to me, and you actually start to fail in different areas if you don't. And so, yeah, that's definitely something key that we've got to do is we've got to be able to just switch. Is there like some key things that or is it kind of just different for everybody that help you kind of swap over, just kind of help you shut off from one thing to the next?
What a great question. So there's lots of different ways to do this, but the easiest one that I like to use is one that we can all do. And we're going to do it today. We're going to do it together. Okay, we're going to do it together, and it's a breathing exercise, because we all breathe. Every single one of us breathes. We don't breathe all over, right? So this tool here, forget who I learned it off. But we're going to do it together. Basically, it's a practice of holding your breath and becoming aware of your breath. So total breath awareness. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in for 5. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to breathe in for 5. I'll do the count. We'll hold for 7, and then we'll breathe out for 8. And we'll do that 3 times, and I'll do the count for us. Okay, so you can close your eyes, and I just want you to see how you feel. And all I want you to focus on is just focusing on your breath and listen to my voice. Okay. So when you're ready, I want you to breathe in for 5 through your nostrils. So 1, 2, 3, in we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's hold. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whenever you're ready, come back to the conversation, but take your time. And tell me how you both feel.
I feel like I need to go to sleep. Yeah, I just a little relaxed over here. How shut the podcast off? Call it a day. Oh,
I felt relaxed after breathing in, closing eyes, breathing in. There was one question going through my mind was why 5, 7, and 8 and not 5, 6, 7? um, other than that, yeah. So what did you say? Just kind of relaxing yourself, figuring out how to relax yourself to then focus again.
Yeah. So what you notice that's very easy to do. It's probably less than a minute if we do it. It's less than a minute. So Dalton, you asked about if you do this practice here at any point in your day when you're starting to feel like a bit frazzled, even though you feel relaxed right now, the important thing is you disconnect from everything in the world. Back to our first statement, all the shiny things out there. You can do this with your eyes open if you want to. You can do it in the car, you can do it in the office, you can do it in the bathroom. But if you do that at some point in the day, it's just going to stop you for that 1 minute or so, just to stop, reflect on the breath, and then go out and see the world in a different way. So there's so many different ways of doing different mindfulness, but I think this is the easiest one that any one of us can do and incorporate into our lives. And if you do it 3 times a day, so whichever times a day you want to do it, you'll see a bit of a change in your just the way you approach the world. So that's a bit of a takeaway there for you if you want to practice. So let me know how you go. Let me know how you go with it. Try it for a week. It doesn't have to be too good. Maybe in the morning, in the evening, whenever, and see how you feel.
I'm going to, and I will. I'll send you a message when at the end of this next week. We'll see. Well, yeah, I'll do it this next week and the following week.
But, yeah, just see how you go. So that's one very, very simple tool. Then there's obviously things like journaling, meditation, all those things that will give you mindfulness in that point in time because you're blocking everything off and you're just focusing on the internet. But Dalton, the key thing I want to tell everyone out there is when you first start this practice out, you're not going to have a clear mind straight away because it's something that's so new. So like Dalton, you're like, oh, why you question? It's a logical brain. Why are you doing this here? But as you keep practicing it, those questions disappear because the outcome is greater than the questioning that you're going to have.
Got it. That's one of those habits got to build now. I'll have to try this breathwork thing because I've never tried. I've heard of breathwork, but it seems like a very good exercise. Do you practice this often?
Yeah, breathwork has become really important in my life. I think it's such a powerful tool, and it's free. Each one of us can do it, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do it. Right? We all breathe all the time. It's free. Once you know how to do it, you can get a lot from that. We just did that for 10 seconds. Actually, not 10 seconds, but less than a minute, and already the two of you already felt relaxed straight away. It's pretty hard to find a pill that's going to do that. Right? So, just relax you with full control, and then come back again and be fully conscious of what you're doing the next 10 minutes or whatever. It's something that I do in my coaching practice as well with different clients. Depending on. So we can go for half an hour breath work and go for an hour. There's different ways of doing depending on what you want to do. So you would have it from half. There's so many different ways of doing it. Each bring on a different thing. But yeah, happy to talk about at some other point if you'd like to do that. There, another conversation.
I know we had mentioned at the very beginning positivity, mindfulness. What is your approach to positivity in a world that being human? We obviously the negativity is what pushes media because we're just human and create that. But how do you approach positivity and trying to not focus on the negative?
Yeah, I'll let Dalton go first, and Dalton, what are your thoughts, Dalton? And then I'll come in.
My first thoughts are honestly me. I'm a very negative person. I you wouldn't guess it, but I can get very angry very quick. Not physically or anything, but just verbally speaking, I can get very angry over things very quickly. So a couple of things that keep me positive are one, my regularly scheduled visits to church Sunday and Wednesday. Is two things that keep me positive. Being around people that are positive, going to a place where it's going to be positive. You know it's going to be positive. For me, it's a decision every single time. You kind of have to decide, okay, am I going to get angry or upset about this? Or am I going to, hey, that's something that's out of my control. I can't do anything about it. So I might as well not waste my energy being negative, and might as well use my energy being positive. And the majority of the time when you do that, you'll end up being more efficient in what you're doing. And I think it's kind of just a decision each and every day in each and every scenario that we have to decide, okay, I'm going to be positive or I'm going to be negative. And I think the more that we decide to be positive, the more easy it comes and the more easy it flows through us.
Yeah, what a great way of putting it, Dalton, and great awareness of who you are as a person, And I think that's important for us as we talk about positive thinking. Is that, as you said, Isaac, we're all humans. So what does that mean? That means you're not going to wake up every day feeling positive. This is life. You can't. I think there's a misconception out there that if you're not happy all the time, then something's wrong with you. And if you're not positive all the time, then something is wrong with you. And I think that's the incorrect way of looking at things. And like you said, Dalton, it is very important for us to remember that positive thinking doesn't mean that your life is going to be free of difficulty, it's going to be free of challenges, that there's not going to be days when you're feeling sad and down and angry and upset. That's not what positive thinking does. What positive thinking does is it allows you, if you keep practicing it often, it allows you to, whenever you have a challenge or a difficulty, it just allows you to think about this with a different way of thinking about it. So as opposed to a reactive attitude, you have a proactive attitude. And it's a way of looking at life's ups and downs, and look at them from a different perspective as opposed to everything is doom and gloom. This doesn't mean that you have to be happy all the time. It just changes the way you think about things. You can be upset about things, but because you have a different way of thinking, your brain starts thinking about things. Okay, cool. Things are doom and gloom. I'm going to be upset and sad, but let's try and find a positive impact on this year. And how do you do that then? How do you actually do this here? And we all hear about, I think reframing is the most powerful superpower in the whole wide world, which we're not taught about. But if we start reframing challenges and we look at, every one of us has challenges in our life. And instead of us going, oh, these challenges are really bad or terrible, you're going to go, cool, what can I learn from this year? What is something that I can learn from this? At work, for example, you go, hey, I've had a bad day at work, and you always have bad days at work, but what is something positive learned from today's day? And there might be nothing, that's okay. But just ask yourself the question, as opposed to, you can ask the question and go, cool, nothing positive, great. But if you don't ask the question, you just wallow in the negativity. And then after that, there you also have, it's hard for us to do this here, but if we try and find silver linings in anything, so for example, I travel quite a bit, and sometimes my planes get canceled, and it's very easy to get upset and angry. And the silver lining could be, hey, it's okay if it's canceled, because what if there's something wrong with the plane? I'd rather be on the ground than being in the air, So again, it's not about always trying to find things that are positive, but just training your mind to go, right, cool, what is the good thing out of this year? Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that there. But again, the important thing I think is for us, our listeners, to go, you don't have to be happy all the time. Happy and positive are 2 different words. And then you can be upset and sad, but still positive. But you don't have to be happy every single day. It'll be great, but you don't have to.
I like that. That reframing is powerful.
I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but you just said it. You get like a plan canceled, and like you think it's the most worst thing, and then sometimes it's like, oh, this actually turned out better that the plan was canceled. And sometimes we get caught up in the moment and we get upset, and then we're not just taking it in like, well, hey, I can't do anything, so might as well be positive and see what I can do now where I'm at. It reminded me of a story of the farmer. I don't know who told the story. I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to tell it. There's basically this farmer during, I think it's like World War II or World War One. World War One, and he's World War One time era, and he's got his son out there plowing the field with the horse, and the horse breaks its leg, and they have to put the horse down, and now he can't plow his field. And the townspeople come along and they go, wow, that's terrible, that's awful. And he says, we'll see. And they go and they get a new horse, and they're obviously already behind because they had to go and buy a new horse, and now they've spent money. And they get the new horse, and the new horse breaks the farmer's son's leg. And the townspeople come along and they say, wow, that's terrible. Now your son, his leg is broken, and he's, sitting down, he can't do anything. He says, well, we'll see. And then, the army comes by to recruit his son. Well, they don't want to recruit a guy that can't walk. And so they end up not recruiting him into the war. And so it's kind of, not to say that going and serving your country isn't, a good thing, but definitely being able to, not have to maybe sacrifice your only son to go and serve in the war, that's a good thing. So, it kind of just, everything kind of worked out in a different way. And so you never know what's going to happen next. And so what bad happened to you today could be good for tomorrow. And so kind of just a thought.
Never heard that story before. That's a good
I butchered it, man.
It's my story.
I
I did.
I think it was a Joe Rogan episode that somebody shared that story. So you can go find it on one of Joe Rogan's podcasts. Good luck. He's got 1,000 videos. So
Yeah. It's actually a Chinese fable. It's a Chinese fable, and it's a very, very powerful story. Again, we'll see what happens. Like you said, Dalton, in the story, the farmer goes, "I will see what happens." And again, a bad thing happened, but he had a positive approach to it. So I think that the emphasis is the bad things are going to happen. It's your approach and what's going to happen there. In each of those examples, you could be hysterical, going, "I've lost my horse," or "My son's broken his back." Different way of looking at it, it's the whole reframing. And I think if we can approach that in every day, again, this is pretty hard, and a bad thing happens, we go, is it actually bad? Well, let me use the word bad in inverted commas here. If something that happens that doesn't go according to whatever you want to happen, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe something positive is going to come from it. And maybe not, but, just your thinking.
Yeah. It's like that Stoic philosophy or line that was like, if you can't control it, don't worry about it. I mean, it's not exactly what they said, but, if you can't control it, just let it be. And I guess if you find yourself, and this is a realization I had yesterday, where it was like, I'm consuming this news on social media or this information, and I just like sat back and was like, what am I going to do with this? Like, all the news in the world, like, what am I going to do with it? Yeah. Like, I think Mr. Beast was saying how he got invited to the Titanic, the tour on the Titanic, and I was like reading that post, and I just sat back and was like, how is this going to affect this news?
Can I tell you something? I had no idea about this whole submarine. I didn't know. I had no idea. Someone said to me, they found the submarine. I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea. And do you know why? Do you know why? Because during COVID, after the whole COVID thing, I basically had a pact with myself as to not to watch the news anymore. I don't watch the news anymore. I don't watch the news because I don't read the news, and apart from sports, but that's different because sports is real. The irony right,
like it.
irony right there.
Right.
The irony right there. And I'll tell you what's happened is I just don't know all the stuff that's happening. Like, you speak about the Canadian fires. I have no idea what's happening because right now that's not affecting my work. And this is a very naive way of looking at things. But it's back to what you said, Isaac, how is that affecting me today, my day-to-day life? It's not really affecting me. And I go, okay, if something is really important to me, someone is going to tell me. If it's really, really important, this someone can text me or call me and go, hey, this is important for you in our world, and I'll know about it. I know it's not the right way to do things, but ever since I stopped reading the news and stopped watching the news and stuff like that, the world has changed quite dramatically for me, because as we said right at the start, the world's negativity, it's all about negativity and hype. Everything's hyped up, everything's hyped up, and everything's souped up. It just gets you in, like, okay, cool, I need to get involved in this here. But like you said, Isaac, these billionaires went on Titan. Cool, that was their choice. They made the choice. How does it affect me in my non-billionaire house? Because, living my life that I'm going to go for a walk, how does it affect me? But that's just my own personal view of the world.
But it's a good way of looking at the world, because who was it that said, where it was like, most of our anxiety comes from things that will never happen. I posted this quote, so I should know it, but like, most of our fear comes from things that will never actually even affect us or even happen. So we're watching the news, trying to keep up with what's happening in the world. It's like, comes from a place of fear, where if we think that somehow we'll know what's happening, we can react to it, when in reality, probably 99% of what's going to be posted in the form of news is not actually going to affect us. So I don't think it's a naive way of looking at it. I think it's probably the best way of looking at it.
So I think it's a really good way of kind of going about it. It's just like, when you start listening, and obviously this takes time to get through, but with the news, I'm a big, I would follow the news all the time. I still end up catching myself going into it and just getting worked up over nothing I can change. I think that's something that we just have to ask ourselves regularly, even before we start watching the video, like, how's this going to help me? Oh, it's not. Okay, boom, gone. Not going to waste any more of my time on it. See you later. I think that's just something that we have to do. And I think that helps us in everything that we've literally talked about is, mindfulness, being positive, and growing, is not wasting your time on things that aren't going to help you do any of those things.
And then it frees up your time to do things that you care about. Because when you look at it, all that wasted time doing those things, we've got a lot of free time back. So
yeah, and again, it goes down to, we all have 24 hours in a day. Each one of us has 24 hours a day. How do you use your 24 hours? Do you want to spend their time chasing shiny things? Do you want to spend their time listening to the news? Do you want to spend their time focusing on yourself and your growth, the people around you that are important? Do you want to focus on things you can't control, or things you can control? Do you want to focus on making yourself a better person? Those are choices that you make, but all those choices come down to our very initial question we had here is, what is your why? What is your intention? My intention to listen to the news is because I want to be involved and we'll have a conversation at work about news. Cool. There's your intention right there. That's happy. We're not saying it's a bad thing. But once you know what your intention is, then you know why you didn't want to be a toy.
Yep. Exactly. Finding your why. Find your why. Ask why more often.
Before we go, I just want to challenge all our listeners out there just to try that breathing practice on. Very simple. 5, 7, 8. Very easy to do. And then at the bottom of the comments, whenever this is posted, let us know how you found that practice there. We'll also to hear how you go. And again, thank you, Isaac and Dalton.
Thank you again, Prajesh. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'll link up all of Prajesh's socials and stuff in the comments, so feel free to check them out, guys.